So when you first get your iManifold system, you got to realize it's sort of a brick. It doesn't know what you want to do. And we have to go through a probe pairing process and add probes into the network so we can map those probes and then tell each one of those probes what their function is within the network. So, in this case here, this is a standard iManifold system here. In the back of this, you're going to see that we have some wired probes on here. This is T1, T2, T3, T4. And there's obviously a little protector right here to keep water out of there, and there's plugs that would go in here. These are just happen to be removed. But I got the wired probes in. I've got a set of wireless probes here. Everything here is in pairing mode, so obviously when you first get the iManifold, there's no batteries in it. You got to put batteries in. And we'll go ahead and turn this guy on here real quick. You'll see it turn on, the lights come on, everything lights up, and then the status light will just flash. And right now, it's just sort of in standby. All the wireless probes, they come with batteries in them, and you can see the lights are doing a double flash. And that double flash means they're in pairing mode. And that's the way they all should be out of the box. If for some reason you have one that's constantly flashing, just press and hold the wireless button until it goes into the double flash mode, and everything will be ready to pair. So the first thing we're going to do here is just tap on the iManifold icon. And on an iOS device, there's no need to pair it with the Bluetooth, so we're just going to simply connect. You'll see it'll go through an initializing phase. You'll hear the iManifold beep. Wireless probes will pop up. Battery will start report in, and then we'll get a couple other menus. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to just tap on wireless probes. You'll see it says there's no wireless probes in this network, and then we can tap anywhere on the screen here to start adding. You'll see that it's telling you it's looking for this double flash. Now also over here on the iManifold, you'll see that the wireless icon now is fast flashing. We got the status light, we're connected via Bluetooth, and the wireless is looking for wireless probes. So now all I'm going to do here is just simply take one of these probes, tap on the wireless button 1 or 2 times. So you can see it's now fast flashing, and that probe is added successfully. Now I don't really have to touch anything here to add more. I can add more and tap this and it'll clear that out, and then obviously tap this again and we'll get the next probe in the network. But I can just simply say where it says add more here, just add the next one in. So I'm just going to tap this one. I'm just waiting to see that it's fully flashing. Tap this one, waiting again to see that it's continually flashing. Tap this one. It's again continually flashing. Tap this one. And again, this one's continually flashing. So now all the probes are in, and all I'm going to do here is just hit done a couple times for each probe that was added in. And now I'm going to go back into my wireless probe menu. So now you'll see all the probes report in. Humidity 1, humidity 2, our manometer, our high pressure, our low pressure, and our repeater and temperature. You're also going to see the batteries come in. You're going to see these indicator lights indicating that the probes are communicating with the network. Periodically, you might see one turn yellow, and that means it's in the network, but it's simply not sending data. And sometimes you can also see them, if they're not communicating at all, go red, and that means there's a problem. If you tap on any one of them, you can see that you can open them up. By default, we mapped them all for you. So you can see the first probe is your return air, second probe is your supply air, third probe is your total external static pressure, our high pressure probe, our low pressure probe, and our repeater. Now, let's say we want to change them. Maybe I want my first probe to actually be supply air. All I do is tap on the subscript. Oops, I tapped on the gear by accident with my knuckle. You can see it by the yellow indicates it's mapped to the return air. If I tap on supply, now you'll see that it changed it to supply air, and it unmapped the return air probe. If I tap that, you can see it's not mapped at all. I can tell that now it's going to the return air. If I open that up, you can see again that's mapped to supply. If I want to change that mapping, I just go back to return, and I can put this back to supply. Everything in the iManifold is user configurable. These T1 scripts here and T2, I can map to any one of these other uses. Now, in the case of a humidity temperature probe, those are in the house, so I might not have anything here I want to add it to. But if I wanted to take here, let's say my low pressure probe, and take the T2 port here, T1 being the one closest to the tip, T2 the next one back. On my low pressure probe, you can see I have a T2 subscript right here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to plug this into my port here. So I got that plugged in now into T2. you'll see that the T2 on the low pressure is going to report it's 76.3 degrees. I'll just tap on that, tap that to outdoor air, and now that's mapped to the outdoor air temperature. So it's just as simple as that. Now I want to take that back off there, I can just clear that mapping. So I'll clear W5T2, hit clear, and now that's back to just a standard T2 terminal. So it's very easy to map the probes and do what we want to do. Now one other piece of the mapping here, if we go back here, you'll see that we have two screens here. One is active temps and one is wired temps, and they're two different things. By default, this comes suction line, liquid line, discharge line, and this one normally would say outdoor air, but because I mapped the outdoor air sensor, I cleared the mapping to it. And that outdoor air sensor probe would go back in the back of the iManifold. So if I'm gonna take this here, I might plug this into the T4, and typically I use this for my discharge line. And you can see here in just a second, that T4 now is reporting as my outdoor air temperature, so all that's done. There is a difference between wired temps and active temps, and if I scroll back here for a minute, active temps are the active temperatures for the circuit I'm working on. Remember here I have these high and low pressure probes, so I could use these for a second circuit, like if I had a two-stage machine where I use iManifold for circuit 1 and an additional high and low pressure probe for circuit 2. If I go into the tools here and I turn on multi-circuit mode, you see that's turned on now, and I just slip back here and I touch either one of the wireless symbols at the top, it'll allow me to switch circuits from the iManifold to circuit 2. So I just tap on that, and now I'm looking at the pressure probes, high and low pressure probes for circuit 2, and I'm reading the suction line and the liquid line off of these two T1 terminals on the high and low pressure probes respectively. I have a discharge line that's not mapped, and I have my outdoor air temperature, and this is the active outdoor air, which is coming off my iManifold right here. So if I grab this probe right here, you'll see that this outdoor air temperature will creep its way up here. Some things like outdoor air, we don't read as fast as we read pressures and temperatures because simply outdoor air doesn't change as quickly. So there might be a tiny delay in response on that, but that's perfectly normal, right? So this gives you a really good idea of how to do that. Now another interesting thing you need to realize in the wireless probe menus, some probes like high pressure probes and low pressure probes have additional configuration options. So in this case here, we can tap on that gear and we can zero the pressures and hit confirm. That'll allow us to zero that pressure out. Same thing here with the high pressure probe. Zero it, confirm. That's going to allow that to hold a zero place. Things like our manometer, if we open the manometer up, have a much deeper level of configuration where not only can we remove the probe or map the probe, but we can also set the hose length, the inner hose diameter, the resolution, and dampening on the probe. If we want to map this probe and change its function to return or supply or total external, we can actually do that. If we clear the mapping out altogether, it's just going to go to differential pressure, right? So if I want that to measure total external, I just tap on total external and it's going to hold that. Now, once you map probes, that mapping stays there until you change it. So this is a one-time process, but what you're doing is telling the iManifold system what every probe in the system is responsible to do. And then once you have it set up and configured that way, it's very easy to manage, because literally all you do is turn on the iManifold, turn on the probes, they come into the network and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But the cool thing is, if I'm down at the condensing unit and I realize I got my return and my supplier probe reversed in the ductwork, there's no having to go back in the house to change that. All I do is simply remap the probes and I'm good to go. So this gives you an idea of how we map in wireless probes on our Zigbee network, and hopefully that gets you through the process.